Okay, well, we should be live, but let's just wait a bit to see. Yes, okay, we are live. So how is everybody doing tonight? Sorry, my mic is just... There you go. Okay, hi. Okay, hi, Lindsay. How are you? All right, so what are we talking about tonight? We're going to be talking about... Tonight's topic is going to be about shopping. So let's talk a bit about shopping. So I'm going to just go over a little bit about our plan tonight. First off, we're going to go over a whole bunch of vocabulary, some alternatives that you can use. After that, we're going to do a little bit of listening. Then we'll go over some things that you can do for your writing and speaking. And then we'll finish off with some idioms if we have time for that. All right, so welcome everybody. If you haven't, hey, you camera. Okay, hey, it's still out of focus. Wow, this camera is not. There we go. Okay, so let's talk a bit about shopping. First things first. The camera is not good today. Okay, anyways, first things first. Let's talk about shopping. Shopping is a very common topic, and even in the DSE exam, they do have. Sometimes they do talk about buying things, so that is something that you have to know about. Shopping is a very common hobby. It's a very common habit. Therefore, you should know a lot about it. Okay, so first off, let's talk about some very common words that people use. We have the word buy. Now, buy is a very common word. Now, there are other words that you can use instead of buy. Okay. A better word instead of buy is purchase. Okay, so buy is the low-level word. Instead, you can use purchase. Now, beyond that, there aren't too many options available, as these are the only two words that have that specific meaning. However, you can use other verbs to express the same notion. So, such as get. Right? Like when you get something, it can mean that you bought it. So I'll give you some other words for get. We also have acquire. Acquire is a great word. So yes, try to learn the word acquire. Lastly, you can use obtain. So I want to be clear about this. The only word that is perfectly simpatico, or the perfectly has the same meaning as buy, is purchase. However, that's only two choices. So if you want to have some other options available, then you can use get, acquire, and obtain. But these can be used even for things you don't buy or you don't purchase. Okay, so that's one half of the equation. Now, what do you buy? When you go to a store, what are you buying? So obviously, you can say things like you buy stuff. Stuff is very general, right? Now, stuff is a very common word, and it's a good word to use. I do need to remind you, though, that stuff is uncountable. So one of the major errors that I do see from time to time, especially from a lot of students, happens to be that for stuff, students will say stuffs. I got some stuffs. It's wrong. Stuff is uncountable. It's always stuff without an S, okay? So make sure that you avoid that error. So you can buy stuff, you can buy things, right? These words are very general, though. There are better words that you can use. When you go to a store, what are you buying? Generally, you're buying products. So it's something possibly processed or created in a factory of some kind. So we can call these products. Now, there are other words that you can use instead of products. I'll get to that in just a second. Another common error that I see all the time, yes, stuffs, Lindsay. Another stuff that are, sorry, not another stuff, that's wrong. Another thing I see all the time is students don't understand that products is just the noun form. When you change the part of speech, When you change this to a verb, it becomes produce. You produce something. So I don't know why lots of students will get that confused. So produce is the verb, product is the noun. The other noun is production, also possible. But yes, lots of students do have some problem with that, so I do want to highlight that. Now, in addition to products, you also have things like merchandise. Merchandise. So merchandise just means things you're trying to sell. Produce something. Right, Lindsay. You produce something. Correct. Merchandise are products that you're trying to sell. Okay? So that's a good word. Now, this word is just like stuff, where it is uncountable. There's never merchandises. Never. It's merchandise. You sell merchandise. Okay? Other words that you can use instead of products, you can use things like items. It's a very common word. Item can be a general term as well, but we do say items. Like when we're selling something, say you want to buy a pair of shoes, you go to the salesperson and you say, hey, I want to buy these pair of shoes. And maybe it's out of stock. You know what they say? They might say, oh, sorry, this item is currently out of stock. This item, okay? So even though item is a general term, we can also use it when we're buying or selling things. The last word, I mean, there are lots of words, but the last word we're going to cover today that you can definitely use is good or goods. This is a great word. So a good or multiple goods are the same thing as products, things that you can sell. So when you go to you go to a stationery store, they have lots of kinds of goods. They sell pens. Hi, Jacob. Hi, Yelman Chan. They sell pens. They may sell books. They sell correction tape. They sell rulers. They have many kinds of goods, items, products, and merchandise. So definitely try to learn these 4 words. The most common word that I hear from students happens to be products. Or sometimes they just say things. But if you're talking about something you sell specifically, then definitely these 4 words would be a very good selection. Okay, so that should be a good starter there. So remember, when you're talking about buying things, you can use these 2 verbs specifically. You can also use these 3 general terms. If you're talking about things you buy, generally we'll use these 4 words: products, merchandise, items, and goods. Remember that merchandise is uncountable. If you have any concerns, please let me know in the chat room. If not, we're going to move on. We have lots to get through today. So, okay, now after that, we're going to talk about the price of something. So we're going to talk about the price. Now, can you, in the chat room, can you give me some adjectives or words or phrases that can describe when the price is expensive? So other than expensive, can you give me some other ways of saying that? I'm going to erase the board. I'm going to give you a few seconds. Can you tell me some other words or phrases that mean expensive? Okay. Can we say stuff and merchandise in plural? Cannot, Lindsay. There is no stuffs, and you cannot say merchandises. There's nothing like that. Okay? Hey, you, Mr. Camera. Wow, the camera's acting really funky today. Jacob, we have costly. Yes. So instead of, let me just write this down. Instead of expensive, we have costly. That's a good word. Let me put it over here. Costly. It's a great word. Unreasonable. Yes. Okay, I'm going to put down unreasonable. It is a good word. You'll have to be very specific that you're talking about the price. So for example, if I say something's expensive, you know we're talking about the price being high. However, if you say something is unreasonable, you need to explain that you're talking about the price. So if you say that that is an unreasonable price, then it's fine, but you need to make it clear that that's what you're talking about. Okay, any others? I haven't heard too much. Okay, I'll give you a few more. You can say it's overpriced. I think you can understand what this means. This should be the price, but it's over that price, so it's overpriced. We have another word here. We have pricey. Pricey is a pretty useful word. Tell you another one. It's exorbitant. This is probably the highest level word out of the bunch. Exorbitant. So this is a great word, as you can say, or you can turn this into an adverb, actually. So it's strange, because usually with verbs, like this is an adjective, but you can turn it into an adverb, which is a little bit odd. So I can say something, you can say something like it is exorbitant, or you can say it is exorbitantly expensive or exorbitantly pricey. So you can even add an ly here and then put an adjective after it. Okay, so this is a good word, exorbitant. Some other words. Now these are all adjectives. If you want a noun, you can say things are a ripoff. A rip-off. So something is overpriced, it's too costly, you can say it's a rip-off. So remember, this is a noun. Now, you can use some phrases to explain this as well. What is pricey and exorbitant? So pricey and exorbitant are both adjectives. They mean the same thing as expensive. So they're interchangeable. I'm going to give you a word. Interchangeable. Interchangeable means that if I have the word expensive, I can then replace it with the word pricey. Oops. And it's the same thing. So if I say, oh, that ice cream is too expensive, it's interchangeable. I can replace it with pricey. That ice cream is too pricey. That ice cream is too exorbitant. Okay? For exorbitant, I'm saying you can add ly and then add it in front of an adjective. So I can say that something is exorbitantly costly, it's exorbitantly expensive, it's exorbitantly unreasonable, it's exorbitantly overpriced. So this word is quite flexible in how you use it. Okay, good question, Lindsay. Another word that you can say, another adjective that you can actually use is astronomical. Astronomical. It's the same as exorbitant, where you can add ly. So if you know what astronomy is about studying the stars. So when you say that something, if you say the price is astronomical or it's astronomically expensive, you're saying the price is so high it's into outer space. So you can also use this as well. So it's very good. Yes. Now, I'll give you some other ways that you can say things are expensive. You can say that something costs an arm and a leg. So, in Hong Kong, for example, you have this place, it's called Disneyland. I'm sure you know what Disneyland is. So Disneyland now is like, oh my gosh, like 500 something Hong Kong dollars. So it's around, my God, it's around 80 US dollars to go one time to the Hong Kong Disneyland. So definitely you could say, if you think it's expensive, you could say that Hong Kong Disneyland costs an arm and a leg. So this is a good idiom that you can use. Something costs an arm and a leg. It just means it's expensive. Very exorbitantly, astronomically pricey and overpriced. You can say something like, it costs a fortune. So fortune can mean luck. In this sentence, though, fortune means wealth, money. So if you say something costs, if you say it costs a fortune, it means something costs a lot of money. So you can say it costs a fortune. Going to Disneyland costs a fortune. Very good way to describe it. Now, you can also pay through the nose. So, if you pay through the nose, it just means it's expensive. So you notice, look, I want you to take a look here. We have so many ways of saying something has a high price, you probably never have to use the word expensive again. I'm just letting you know. Low-level students always use expensive when they're talking about something where the price is quite high. You need to show the examiner your language is much better, so you can use something like this instead. Any questions about this? Costly? Wow, too many sentences. Well, these, well, I've been having this discussion with students lately about English. English is easy to learn. What I mean is that English is like other languages. You can learn basic English as easily as other languages. The issue is that English is very difficult to master. It's very difficult to get to a very high level, as there are so many words and phrases that mean the same thing. If you think about your own language, I mentioned this last week, how many ways are there to say expensive? There probably won't be, 10 different ways. And that's the thing with English. Unfortunately, there's just so many options and choices. That's where it gets a little bit confusing. But yes, these are good adjectives: costly, unreasonable, overpriced, pricey, exorbitant, astronomical. Rip-off is a good noun. Costs an arm and a leg. It costs a fortune. You can pay through the nose. These are good sentences or phrases. Lastly, remember, exorbitant and astronomical. You can put ly and then put an adjective in front, or after it. You can say something is exorbitantly pricey, astronomically overpriced, and it will accentuate or exaggerate your idea. Okay? Well, okay, now we've talked about how we can talk about things that have a high price. So I think you know where we're going next. How can we describe things that have a low price? So I'm going to erase the board. I'm going to give you a few moments. Can you tell me in the chat room words or phrases that tell you that something has a low price? So can you tell me words or phrases that mean a low price? Gonna erase the board. Tell me in the chat room. Okay, so JS and Jacob have said cheap. So fine. Okay, let's use cheap. Yeah, cheap. We also have inexpensive. Yep. Well, inexpensive is the opposite of expensive. Okay, so notice after those two, there generally aren't any others. So students use inexpensive more often than cheap, and then that's about it. So I'm going to give you some other ways to describe things that have a low price. Remember, this happens all the time when you're talking about hobbies and other topics in the DSE, so please pay attention. Okay, first thing that we can do is when we have the word cheap, we can actually do something to it. We can add this word in front. We can say dirt cheap. Okay, so I want to explain this one. Dirt cheap. So it's cheap, but it's dirt cheap. So what is dirt? Dirt is the thing you find where plants and rocks are, right? That mud, that dirt, that brown stuff. It's everywhere. It's dirt cheap. So if you want to see something that's cheap, instead you can use dirt cheap. Doesn't take much skill to make it sound a lot better. So you can say it's dirt cheap. Okay, Lindsay, we have unexpensive. So unexpensive, actually the correct term is inexpensive. There's no unexpensive. Inexpensive is the correct term. Jacob says low cost. Yes, you can say something is low cost. Good. You can also say something is low priced. You can also say things like, things are a bargain. A bargain. So bargain is a special word because it can be a verb, it can be an adjective, and it can be a noun. So it can actually be basically all the main parts of speech. So you can bargain for a bargain. You can bargain for a bargain. I'll give you some examples of how you can use this. So sometimes in Hong Kong, you might go to Ladies Avenue in Mongkok, Sai Yong Choi. Is it South? Sai Yong Choi North Street? I can't remember. Sai Yong Choi South Street? Can't remember. Anyways, so when you want to talk with those people, you're bargaining, right? So you will bargain with them to try to get a cheaper price. That's how you can use it as a verb. Now, as an adjective, you can say something like, well, I bought these bargain books. It means that the books were cheap. The price was low. Okay? I bought these bargain books from Women's Avenue. I don't even think they sell books there. As a noun, right, you can say that, oh yeah, it was a really good bargain. So this is a very flexible word. Now, obviously, these are all adjectives, right? You put these in front of nouns, right? Like that. Those are cheap shoes, inexpensive shoes, they're cheap shoes, low-cost shoes, low-price shoes, bargain shoes. But you can also use it as a verb or a noun. So it's a very good word. Yeah, bargain. Well, we don't say that usually. I'm just using that as an example. We won't say bargain. We won't say, oh, we bargained for a bargain. That's really odd. I just want to let you know that it can be a verb, adjective, and noun. Another word that you can use is budget. Now, budget means something slightly different. And the problem with this word is also very flexible. Unfortunately, the meanings are all different. When you budget something, it means that you are trying to calculate what you can do. So it doesn't mean cheap as a verb. It means something else. Adjectives, budget means that the quality is usually lower as well. So if you say it's a budget airline as an example, usually it means the quality is lower. It's also cheaper, but it's also lower. You can also use it as a noun. So this word, you have to be careful, just like bargain. You can use it in many different ways. I'm sure you know this word. You can definitely use it. Okay. I know this is difficult. Please, at any time, any concerns, let me know. You can also say that it's marked down. So markdown has a specific meaning. So sometimes you go to a store, they might have a sale as an example. So let's say at the beginning it's $100. And then the next time you go, it's marked down to $60. That's what it means by marked down. Okay? So if you go to the store and it's always $10 and it's a cheap price, other places sell it for $20, and then you go there and it's $10, that's not marked down. It's only marked down if it starts off at a higher price and then it becomes a lower price. Then it becomes marked down. You can say that the price, it's a reduced price, same meaning, must be higher first, and slashed. Slashed also means the same thing. Slash means to cut. So if the price has been cut, it goes from a higher price to a lower price. That's why it's slashed. Ugh. Some other things that you could say. You could say that it is easy on the pocketbook. So if something's easy on the pocketbook, it means it's cheap. Budget doesn't mean money. No. Budget does not mean money. If you use the word budget as an adjective in front of a product, it means that it is a lower quality item. So I'll give you an example. You know, when you go to the grocery store, you can buy the brand name product, right? Like you can buy Coke. Or you can buy some other brand of Coke. It's some other brand of cola. That might be the no-name cola. You know, it's like a cheaper brand, but that's usually a budget cola, right? Or you buy ice cream. There's a lot of expensive brands of ice cream, you know, like Breyers, Movenpick. I don't know what they sell. But yes, there are expensive brands, right? But you can buy a budget brand. You can buy a budget ice cream, and usually it's much lower in price, but it's also much lower in quality. So if you're talking about using the word in this context, then budget as an adjective means that it's usually lower quality and lower priced. I hope that answered your question, Lindsay. If it doesn't, please ask again. Yeah, so you buy something cheap, it's easy on the pocketbook. Last phrase is, it's a steal. So if you know what steal means, steal is when you take something that you're not supposed to take and then you keep it. So sometimes things are quite inexpensive, sometimes they're quite dirt cheap, sometimes they're quite low cost. Then you can say, it's a steal. So sometimes you might get some deals at some place. They'll be like, 80, 90% off. It's a steal. That's what you can say. If it's really, really unbelievably at a bargain price, then you can say it's a steal. So you notice once again, look how many ways that you can say something is cheap. So once again, remember, low-level students, they use expensive, they use cheap. Instead, you can use these ways of saying it instead. Any questions, let me know. Okay. Then, if no concerns, what we're going to do is we're going to do some listening. So, what's going to happen is I'm going to give you a question, and you're going to listen to me talk as though it's the real audio file. And then you need to select the answer that you think is best. Now, before that, you're going to have, or I'm going to teach you some things you need to pay attention for. So let me erase the board, and let's talk about listening. Okay, let's talk. No, just hard. Well, learning English can be quite difficult. Okay, so the listening part of the exam, especially in Part A, you have to remember that listening and integrated skills is worth 30% of your marks. So listening Part A is actually worth 15%. In this part of the exam, you're going to have 4 sections. Now, you're going to get lots of different question types. Now, they don't have straightforward multiple choice questions. Like in reading, as an example, you'll get questions like this in reading. And you need to choose. In listening, you don't get this. In listening, you still do get multiple choice, but they're made in different ways. So a common multiple choice question type that they'll ask you is something like this. They'll give you options. It won't be marked, right? They'll have different words in here. So let's just mark it off as A, B, C, D. They are not marked in the exam. So I want to make this clear. This is just for display purposes only. Now, when they're talking, what they're going to do is they're going to mention almost all or all of the choices here. The reason is these are called distractors. What they're trying to do is they're trying to trick you into choosing these words because low-level students hear the word and then they pick it. Okay? So they'll hear, oh, they said this word, pick it. But maybe it's a distractor. They might say things like, in the past, we would need A, but now we don't, right? So if you're a high-level student, you'll hear, oh, in the past we needed it, but now we don't, so it's not A, as an example. Sometimes they say things like, oh, do we need B? And then the guy will say, yes, oh, no, actually, sorry, no, we don't. And then, oh, you don't need B. So these are the distractor type of methods that they'll use, especially if it's a multiple choice question. So be aware of that, especially in listening. They will mention almost all or all of the answers. That's what they'll do every time. In addition to that, because it's multiple choice, anything to do with this type of question format or lists, you should be paying attention for sequencing words. So sequencing words are words like first, and, also, finally, another thing is. So any words or phrases that tells you what's coming next, you should pay attention to. These sorts of words give you a clue that they're going to be talking about the next thing. So please pay attention to the sequencing words. Lindsay's asking, what is a distractor? In the word distractor, you see the verb distract. Distract means, it's kind of hard to explain. When something distracts your attention away, it means you're not paying attention to what you should be paying attention to. So as an example, here's a very good one. In schools, you're not supposed to have your phone, though lots of students do have their phone. So what ends up happening is the teacher will be conducting the class, and instead of paying attention, the students may be, on their phone playing Candy Crush or something. So the phone is a distractor. The phone is distracting them from what they should be doing, which is listening to the boring, dull teacher. So that's a distractor. So a distractor puts your attention in the wrong direction, so it's bad. Just on this little topic of schools, I've asked students constantly, and universally, I'll just tell you what the saying. Universally means always. Yeah, always. So universally, the students will tell me that their teachers at school are extremely boring, dull, monotonous, unstimulating, and that is very unfortunate. Learning should be fun. It should be it should be fascinating. It should be riveting. It should be lots of things. It should never be dull. If it's dull, I don't know, right? Because generally, you learn things because you're interested in it and because it's entertaining. That's why we watch TV. That's why we read books. When we watch and read books, we're learning and consuming and acquiring lots of knowledge, even though that's not our intent. So if someone is entertaining, if a class can be more amusing, that's definitely a big plus. So I think teachers should try to focus on that. Yeah, right. I don't know if that's yeah, right, like you agree, or yeah, right, like it's sarcastic. But anyways, so for the listening part, just remember, if it's a multiple choice question, they will use distractors to try to trick you into choosing the wrong answer. They will say almost all or all of the answers. Also, please try to use sequencing words or listen for sequencing words so you know what is coming next. Okay, so let me get this ready. I hope you are all doing well. It's been raining all day here. It's been quite frustrating, but that's life. Sometimes, you know, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. That's what they say. Okay, so here's the question for you. Oh, sorry, that's not right. Okay, here it is. Okay, so first off, you'll notice that these question types also generally won't tell you how many answers are correct. So you need to decide, is it 3 answers, 4 answers, 5 answers? That will be dependent on what they say in the audio. So I'm going to read it out to you, and then I need you to decide which answers are correct. Then we'll go over the answers together. Please pay attention to the distracting phrases and also to the sequencing words, like firstly, next, another thing is. Okay, so I'm going to read it. So here we go. You have to remember that for this little excursion, we need to be extremely prepared, or else we will end up facing lots of difficulties that we could have avoided. So why don't we start? First, one of the key things you'll need to bring is your passport and identification. This is a no-brainer. If for some reason you don't bring this, then you'll be left in Hong Kong, and we wouldn't want that. Japan doesn't require a visa, so that's good, I guess. Next, make sure that you bring a lot of Japanese currency, which is the yen. If you just bring Hong Kong dollars, it'll be quite troublesome, as you'll need to exchange it, and that takes up time. You also have to keep in mind that we are going to different destinations every day, and those places may or may not have places to exchange currency. Sometimes you might get hungry, so you can bring some snacks with you. Not too many though, as it may get too bulky. Last year, students also had some nausea medication, but this time we won't be going on any ships, so that won't be required. Another thing to keep in mind is that we are going in winter, so please ensure you have proper clothing. If you bring shorts and tank tops, you'll be very sorry indeed. So instead, you can carry long pants, long socks, and a winter jacket. I guess that's about it. Okay, that's the end of the audio. So let me ask you, which of these would you choose? Yeah, so Lindsay's asking yen. Yen is the currency of Japan. So for example, in Hong Kong, they have Hong Kong dollars. In Japan, they have Japanese yen. In Korea, they have Korean won. So yeah, it's the currency of that country. So which of these do you need to bring? So I'm not seeing any answers up here, so maybe a little bit difficult. But yes. Ooh. Winter jacket. So at the end, they did say they were going at winter. If you bring shorts and tank tops, you'll be very sorry indeed. So instead, you can carry long pants, long socks, and a winter jacket. So winter jacket is correct. Okay. JS says winter jacket, snacks, yen, passport. So in the middle of the dialogue, or in the speaking, or in the listening part, excuse me, it says, sometimes you might get hungry, so you can bring some snacks with you. Not too many, though, as it may get too bulky. So yes, you can bring some snacks. We also had yen and passport. So near the beginning, Next, make sure that you bring a lot of Japanese currency. So you heard that sequencing word next. So Japanese currency is correct, yen. Excuse me. Oh. And then we also have passport, JSS. First, one of the key things you'll need to bring is your passport and identification. That is correct. Now you might have heard, now this one did have the sequencing word. It said first, one of the key things to bring is your passport. So you do notice that they do have the sequencing words. They do have all the distractors. They did mention visa. They did mention nausea medication. They did mention dollars. They did mention shorts. But these are the 4 correct answers. Now, if you listen to the distracting words, you should have been able to notice which ones to avoid. Don't be sick. Well, it's not a choice sometimes, Lindsay. Yes, but that's how it works for the listening part of the exam. When you get to task 3 and 4, generally the vocabulary will become much more complex. And then at that point, it might be a little bit more difficult, but that's just how it is. But the same strategy applies. Okay. Any questions about listening? No questions. Okay, well then let's continue. So JS, you were correct. You got all the answers correct. So very good. Very good, JS. Okay. Let's talk about some things that you can use for your writing and speaking. Okay. Okay, so one of the key things, now I did refer to this maybe, 4 months ago now. I did refer to the triangle of evil, and, but, and because. So, just want to go over some words with you guys that you can definitely use for your writing and for your speaking. And, but, and because are far too low level and they are far too common. So instead you want to use some other phrases instead. So we're going to go over some of them today, not too many. Let's go over and. So and is very common. You have to be careful. Lots of students use and constantly. You can't do that. So we're going to go over some words that you can use instead of and hopefully, and hopefully. In addition, I hope you can use them. So can you tell me some words that you can use instead of and? So I'm going to give you some time to think about it. I'm actually just going to get some water. My throat is, I want to keep coughing. Can you tell me some words that mean and I will be back very shortly. So tell me in the chat room, give me some other ways of saying and. Okay, nothing yet. Okay, so I'm going to tell you some other ways that you can say and. You definitely need to know this. So instead of and, I just used one before I went to go get some water. You can use in addition. So, yes, thank you, JS. I see in addition. Or doesn't have that meaning. It can in some situations, unfortunately, not all the time. So JS is on a roll. On a roll. So when you're on a roll, it means that you're doing well. You're doing something well continuously. So yes, furthermore, moreover. Okay, now, in addition, there's actually another one that you can use. You can use additionally. Additionally. Okay, so it's the same thing as in addition. In addition is much more likely to be used. Additionally is also fine. Another word that you can use, besides. Yeah, besides is okay. Besides, something you can also use besides that. Well, JS knows all of these. You can also use also. Also. Any other words for and? So you'll notice that for this word, for and, we do have quite a few choices here. So we don't have to use them. We don't have to use and all the time. Now, you have to be careful, though. And grammatically is different than all of these. What do I mean? One of the most common errors that students have is that they will use these words the same way as and you cannot do it. Lindsay, what can you not understand? Not only, but also. Yeah, okay, I'll write that down. This one's more advanced. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but you can also use this. For example, if I say I like cats and I like dogs, you'll notice that these are two separate sentences. So let me just underline this. I like cats, I like dogs. These are two independent sentences. Two. What that means is that if I drop the and, I can put a full stop or a period. Now, when you use these phrases, they mean this. They mean and. However, it's not the same usage as and. If I want to use in addition, I can put it in the same place, but I need to start a new sentence. I like cats. In addition, I like dogs. New sentence, two sentences. Excuse me. Same thing with furthermore, moreover. Now, if you want to have even better grammar, what you could do instead is actually, because these are two sentences, you could combine them again with the word and. You could say, I like cats and, in addition, I like dogs. That's also perfectly fine. The error that I see with a lot of students is they will try to use these words as though they mean and. They mean and, but the grammar is different. So I cannot say, I like dogs, moreover, I like cats, moreover, I like dogs, period. It's wrong. I can say, I like cats, period. Moreover, I like dogs, period. Then that's fine. There's another phrase that I use all the time. Another thing is. That's another one I like to use. Rip throat, you're right. Hey, when you have to talk for an hour, it can be quite taxing on your voice. That is definitely true. Okay? So I hope you guys understand that grammatical thing. The one that I see that the most is with also. I see students always say things like, I like cats, also I like dogs, period. It's wrong. You can say, I like cats, period. Also, I like dogs, period. That's fine. However, you must have a period in between if you want to use any of these. Okay. All right. So JS, you knew like 90% of these, so I think you're quite on the ball. You're on the roll, on a roll. You're doing quite well. So let's finish off tonight's class. We have about 10 minutes left. I'm going to go over some other phrases and vocabulary related to buying things. If you have any questions, please let me know. So let me erase the board. So let's talk about some vocabulary related to buying things. Okay, first things first, let's talk about ads. So you know what ads are? Ads are the things that you see on the internet. You see them on trains, on buses, on the TV. You might listen to them on the radio, right? Those are all ads. Now, the long form word is advertisement. Advertisement. Now, some people say advertisement. Yes, they're both correct. I say advertisement, but you can say advertisement. Both are fine. Okay. Now, there is a word that does mean this. It's commercial. So commercial has multiple meanings. This meaning is an advertisement that you can see or hear. That moves. So things on TV, things on the internet, things on the radio that move or that you can hear, those are all commercials. So if you see a poster, at the train station, that is not, it's not a commercial. That's just an advertisement. But if you listen to the radio and they're saying, hey, you should go to McDonald's, that's a commercial. If you see, those 15-second commercials on YouTube videos before you can watch the video and you want to skip the ad, that's a commercial. Because it's either talking and it's moving, something like this, that's a commercial. If you see something in a magazine, that is not a commercial. So that's the distinction. All commercials are a kind of advertisement, but not all advertisements are commercials. Earlier, I talked about brand names, right? Brand names, like Coke, McDonald's. Those are all big brand names, so that's a good word that you should definitely. That's something that you should definitely learn. Now, if you're talking about names that are luxurious, like Louis Vuitton or something like that, we call them high street names. High street. Okay, let's talk about payment methods. Payment methods are something that you should definitely know about. We only have a few minutes left. So, there are many different ways that you can pay for things. Right? So the first one that you probably know the most is cash. So when you have cash, you go to a store, you just give them the money. They give you the product, they give you the good, they give you the item, they give you the merchandise, and then you're set to go. So cash is probably one of the most popular ways. As society becomes more technologically advanced, there are other avenues to pay for products. So things like credit cards. Now, if you're a kid, like if you're taking the DSE as an example, you probably don't have a credit card. You might, but you probably don't. But you can have credit cards. Credit means you borrow the money first and you pay it back later. That's what a credit card is. Now, the opposite of a credit card, and I'll just tell you what it is. It's probably quite difficult to know. The opposite of a credit card is something called a debit card. Sometimes people just call them bank cards. So a debit card is where somebody, right, you say you have $100 in your bank account, you take your debit card or your bank card, you go to the vendor, the seller, the promoter, whatever, you give them your card, and then they withdraw the money from your bank account. So if it costs $10, you had $100 before, now you have $90, because you bought something for $10, they took it out of your bank account. So That's what a debit card is. So it directly extracts it or takes it from your bank account. So you can have a debit card instead of a credit card, or you can have both. So credit means you borrow first, pay back later. Debit means that you pay directly from your bank account. Other methods of payment. You can use a check. Now, if you're taking the DSE exam, you're probably quite young. You may not even know what a check is. So a check is this little piece of paper, and usually you sign it, and then you put the date, and you say, oh, I want to pay this guy $100, right? So it's a piece of paper, and what you do is you write your name on it, you give it to a person, that person goes to the bank account, and then they will try to go through the process of extracting the money or getting the money from your bank account. So that's what a check is. Checks are usually for, I don't even know what people use checks for anymore. I don't see them too often. Yeah, in Hong Kong, I don't know what people use checks for. I don't see them too often anymore. People just don't use checks nearly as much. But in the past, as an example, like 20 or 30 years ago, if I needed to pay a lawyer, like, I don't know, $1,000 US, it would be odd for me to carry around that much cash. And the problem is if you use a credit card, the credit card, they take fees. They take a percentage. So then if you want to avoid those fees, like those 3% fees and whatever, then people would use a check, right? That's why. JS is asking a good question. What do you say about Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Alipay? So those are called e-payments. Those are form of e-payments or digital payments. Mobile payments. They call them e-payments, digital payments, mobile payments. So in Hong Kong, or even in mainland China, they use a lot of these digital payment systems. Like it's on your card, not even on your card. It's on your cell phone. You have an account on your Samsung account. You just beep, you just scan. You can like transfer people stuff. It's really unbelievably quick. Yeah, so that's what we call them, JS. We call them e-payments, mobile payments, digital payment systems. Good question. Another way that you can pay for something, I don't know if you've ever heard of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an example of what we call a cryptocurrency. It's called a cryptocurrency. So what's a cryptocurrency? A cryptocurrency, this crypt has a couple meanings, but in this word, it means that it's hard to understand or it's a secret, something like that. So a cryptocurrency means that people don't know who the owner of that currency is. They don't know who holds that money. So you can be anonymous. Anonymous. Anonymous means that they don't know who it is. Like, for example, when you use a credit card to buy something, they have a record of who bought it and when. Now, if you value your privacy, then having a cryptocurrency could be quite effective. Because if you use cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and there's many others, then they don't know who bought what when. It's kind of like cash in that way where you can keep your privacy. So a lot of people are gravitating or moving towards cryptocurrencies. I'll tell you one other way that you can buy stuff. It's not even buying, it's more like trading. It's called barter. So barter is the thing that people used to do before there was paper money. For example, I have cows, you have fish. I might trade my cow for your 40 fish. That's bartering, right? Trading. You give me something, I give you something. Now, obviously, the reason why we don't do this very much anymore is it's very difficult to calculate what things are worth. And if I have a cow and you have fish, but I don't want your fish and you want my cow and you don't have any currency, then it's very difficult to trade. So barter is something we don't do very much anymore. Yeah, mostly the people who do barters are like kids. Kids trade things all the time, right? They'll trade a toy for a book or something like that. So barter is common for kids. Okay, that brings us to the end of the class. If you have any questions or concerns, if you do, then let me know. I'm just going to erase the board. Yeah, so if you have any questions, please let me know. If not, you can always message me at that WhatsApp or line number. You'll see it there, 9318-7075. That's 9318-7075. I'm more than happy to answer your queries there. But it seems like everybody is quite good. We learned a lot today, vocabulary about shopping. I hope you found it useful. If not, or I hope so. And that's about it for tonight. So good to see you all. I will see you all later. Bye for now.